Welcome to the Haven for Soul Care, the podcast where we explore the art of nurturing the mind, body, and spirit. Each week, we bring you inspiring stories, insightful conversations, and practical tips to help you create a life of balance, peace, and purpose. Whether you're seeking guidance on personal growth, wellness, or simply need a moment to reconnect, this is your safe space. I'm your host, Brianna, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in and take care of the soul. Okay, so Rhonda, we're back again, and I'm excited about today. I'm excited because I'm gonna be the one in the hot seat, and you're going to be doing the interviewing. So, listeners, if you are ready and you are tuned in, I want you to grab a pen, I want you to grab some paper, and I want you to start taking some notes and invite people to come along, as I am not going to be the one interviewing today. So this is going to be fun. And so, Rhonda, I'm gonna get you to introduce yourself, and then I'm gonna just let you go ahead and take over. How about that?
Okay, that's so great. Thank you. So I'm here because we've talked about two other books that I've worked on. And with those books, it led into talking about storytelling and mutual loves that we have. You've been a hospice chaplain, and I've spent also a lot of time with people at either end of life or, octogenarians as they have something to say that they want to leave behind.
Mhm.
And I also work with business people who have stories to tell and grandparents who want to tell stories to their grandchildren. And so I work on my own books projects with clients, and I coach clients, and so I do all kinds and I teach classes. So it came up that you have a story to tell.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, I want to talk to you about that, Brianna." And so that's why we're here.
Yeah.
And so for listeners and viewers, if I want to ask you if you have something that wants to come out, whether it is someone in your family potentially that you want to interview because you know that they have a story to tell. I work with a lot of students that are working on family history, or they want to interview their parents, or if they're younger, their grandparents
Mhm.
or spouse. I work with the bereaved, people who
Yeah.
have lost someone and want to write or leave behind the memories of the people that they have loved. And so many of the projects are memorial projects. Some people are the keepers of their generation. They're the ones that, for whatever reason, the stories come to them. And
Mm.
that's a huge responsibility. So that's a
Yeah.
little bit of backstory. So I want to first ask Brianna, um, what is your purpose in wanting to write a book?
Well, my purpose in this particular book is to let people know who I really am as a woman. So many people meet me in different seasons of my life, but there are very few who met me at the beginning of my life. My childhood is a bit of a mystery to a lot of people who are in my life right now, and even um, to some of my family members. And so
Mhm.
this is an opportunity for me to stop feeling as though I have to explain why I do and why I react the way that I react. And um, so, yeah, so that's my purpose, to let
Mm,
people better know who I am as a woman.
wow. So one question comes up. I wonder, how well do your children really know you as a whole person?
Oh my gosh. You know, they know a little bit. Um, every year I let them in a little more on who their mom is. You know,
Mhm.
of course, when they were growing up, they were sometimes I could see where they were trying to stray to I say to another side of the tracks where and I would oftentimes tell them, you're not from there, and you would not know or understand how to cope with people who are from that who are what I would say about that particular lifestyle. I
Mm,
know and I can recognize it because your mom was once there. I grew up in that type of lifestyle. You guys are more fortunate and you didn't, and you were not exposed to it. So I need you to be careful. So they, little things like that, but not, in full detail of
Yeah.
what this book is going to explore.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I'll just share is that my very first book project was my own parents' story.
Oh.
And we started it when my dad passed unexpectedly. We knew his passing was coming, but writing came out of the blue. I had no idea. And that's a story for another day. But in working on their story, I got to see my mother in a whole new light. She became not just the mom, but a heroine in an epic love story, in a family business saga.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the best gifts that ever came to me in working on their project, was this new relationship and new eyes that I saw her through.
Yeah, that's funny that you said that because my mother, um, before she passed away, she knew that she was sicker. She knew she was sick and sicker than what she had ever told us. And I can remember riding, she would ride with me oftentimes if I was going to go take care of some business. And I can remember her speaking to me about parts of her past life, just out the blue, suddenly. Just starts
Mm,
telling me these stories and like you, I was able to look at her past the title of being my mom and to see her as the woman.
yeah,
And I respected her on a whole nother level. And I felt sorry and I was empathetic and very sympathetic with some of the things that she told me because I had no idea.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
When you understand someone's backstory, there's a whole level of empathy and learning and just relationship bond that
Hmm.
occurs between two people. What a gift she gave you before she
Yeah.
passed away.
And it brought healing, and there were some
Mm.
things that I needed that I did not realize that I was holding on to, that I was able to let go and forgive.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when people are toward the end of life, that's one of the reasons why they want to tell their story, because there are things they need to say,
Hmm.
healing that may need to occur. I've worked with clients who needed to say things to their children. So, because what's the first thing that someone will do when they read your story is they will go to the pages that they're on. And they'll want to
Yeah.
see what you said about them and what you said
Yeah.
to them. And so that's a very important responsibility, is to make sure that those words convey the love and light that you would want them to convey. Now, some people have tell-all memoirs where they write about their terrible childhoods, and sometimes those become great bestsellers, but it doesn't do their families any favors usually. It's
Mm-mm. Yeah.
it can be very damaging in terms of relationships and take a long time to heal. So you have to think carefully about what your purpose is, if you have, because some people may need to write about trauma and abuse and
Hmm.
difficult things. And that is very important for many people. Their purpose in writing will be to help heal current and future generations. There may
Hmm.
not be anything they can do to heal those in the past that hurt them.
Hmm.
Getting even, getting revenge, outing people never ends well.
No,
I'm
it
sure
does.
you know with your clients, don't do that.
Yes, yes, yes. And one of the fears, because I have been contemplating on writing this book for a couple of years now, and one of the things I often stayed in prayer about was how will my family take it? Because it's of course it's not about my siblings, it's not about other family members, it's just about me and my parents,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
our relationship and how the way that they raised me and the things that I experienced with them cultivated the woman that I am today.
Yes. So, one piece of advice when you get into the writing, we'll talk about the writing process in a minute, but when you get there, write. I got this advice I got from Stephen King. He has a wonderful book on writing. It's a part memoir about his background and part writing advice, and it's excellent.
Hmm.
He says, write with the door closed, meaning when you write your first draft, pretend that no one else is going to read it. It's just you and the story, and let it all come out. If
Mhm.
it is difficult, if it is unkind, if it is, I mean, and I don't mean that you're going to write things that are unkind, but some things need to come out in their raw form that is
Mhm.
not self-edited and not self-censored, just so that you even see what's there. So
Mhm.
pretend no one is ever going to read it, but then edit with the door open. So you open the door and you say, all right, now my family is going to see this.
Mhm.
And you do certain drafts, for story, you will do a draft to look at, is the story arc compelling? Is it interesting? Because it's about the reader, not about you at that point. But
Mhm.
also, you're going to do a sensitivity read and you're going to think about, okay, how are my siblings going to take this? Do I need to just take these parts out because it no good will come of it?
Yeah.
Because one piece of advice also is that siblings and children, so like sibling relationships, are very touchy.
Okay.
I'm sure you know this from your therapy work. And
Mhm.
so when you tread on that, your siblings can be funny in ways that you just do not see coming. And so that's something to just be really careful about and be a little bit prepared for, that in every family story, there are certain sensitivities that come up that you don't see coming.
Yeah. It's funny you said that because I started having these conversations with my brother. And some of the conversations that we've had, because my siblings, it's a really big age gap. So um some of his memory on things is quite different, and so having these conversations, they kind of get heated, and I'm like, where in the world, what happened? Like, how did you forget? How did you view this that type of way? It's really not how that happened, and so that really made me say, you know what, let's limit about them, and let's
Mhm.
just keep it focused on this is the main thing. And this is
Yes.
what we're going to talk about, because I don't want to ruin our relationships because I love them, and that's just not who I am as a person. But it can be a little difficult, you know.
Oh, you're not kidding. And and that is something that really, it definitely comes up in any memoir or family storytelling, is that memory is notoriously unreliable. What we know now about the brain is that memories are not a cinematic, accurate documentation of what happens. Every time you pull up your memory, it's recreated with a little bit of spin of who you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And so through time, everyone's memory in a family will look different depending on the seat that they had at the table, the age
Mm-hmm.
they were, the relationship they had with their parents, and who they have since become. And the details become really fuzzy. And I've been certain that I was right in my memory. And then we've gone back and looked at the record, and I'm like, oh, it turns out your
Yeah.
facts were a little better than mine. So there's a bit of humility that we must bring in navigating the differences in memory. And a couple of pieces of advice that I've received. One is, your story is your story, and their story is theirs.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to write their version, they are more than welcome to do that.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is your version, and it's the world according to you.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I do like to, personally, my approach is that I like to have a little bit of navigation and negotiation and creating a final version that everyone can live with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do let people read it. Some memoirists have rules. No, I don't let other people read it. I don't let them give feedback. But my purpose in writing is to bring families together.
Yes.
And so I do respect their view. And I have what I call an advance apology. Okay. And it goes like this. So when I deliver a manuscript to a family member, I say, okay, I've had this manuscript and I would really appreciate your feedback and your input. And I just have to tell you, before you even read it, I am so sorry. For what? I don't even know yet, but I'm sure you'll tell me. Because I'm sure there's something in here that I've gotten wrong, some way that I've stepped on your toes that I didn't even realize. And so will you please come to me and talk to me about it? Let's work through it. I will listen to what you have to say, and we'll figure out an approach that we can live with because I value you and your relationship.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna have to use it. Yeah.
So, so those are just some general thoughts about navigating the sensitive territory. I do whole classes on sensitive subjects and family sensitivities because when I first went into this, I thought, oh, everyone's going to love me for writing this, and I'm doing this thing for our family, and there were some things I stepped in and learned some things the hard way.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I'm excited though. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So, Brianna, do you have a writing habit?
Hmm. Sadly to say. I used to get up early in the mornings and write because that was always a good time for me to write, for me to get up early in the morning and just sit down with my thoughts and just write because I'm a journaler. So I love to journal. Um, but this season of my life has not afforded me to be able to have the opportunities to journal like I used to. But I am setting some hard boundaries across the board, and so I can get back into that because I think it's healing, and I love to keep a record of my life.
Yes. I am so happy to hear that you've had that as part of your life in the past and that you're setting an intention now to get back to it,
Yeah.
because that alone will make all the difference. Because it sounds like you're a morning person, that you have a time that has worked for you in the past. And because you already love it, it will not be easy, but easier because
Hmm.
you want to.
Yeah.
And you've had some of that habit. So now the question will be, what will your writing look like in the mornings? Will it be, I think journaling is a great way to start,
Mhm.
just free writing, just downloading everything without worrying about where it's going or
Mhm.
what it will become.
Okay. Okay.
So if you can set aside a half hour or an hour a day. So here's a little bit of pep talk. Okay.
Okay.
If you can write 500 words a day, you could
Mhm.
have a first draft of your book done in 3 months,
Really?
right? Okay, so now that's unrealistic because your first draft of what you write is going to be meandering and a lot of
Hmm.
it's just going to be downloading. So the first draft, I don't recommend that you just sit down and try to like write your first draft of your book. When you're
So explain,
writing, go ahead.
explain to us why do you not recommend for um that to be done?
Because when you're writing memoir, you have some exploration that you need to do. One author that I love, Natalie Goldberg, who wrote Writing Down the Bones, she recommends writing for a whole year of just free write, download, journaling, and then put it all away and then start your book.
Oh, wow.
Because there's just a lot that you need to process and think about and just get out there without an agenda.
Hmm. Okay.
And so it depends on what your purpose is. If you were writing a self-help business book, I might recommend a little different process. But I think to get back and just, first of all, warm up, establish your habit and your discipline, and amazing things will happen. I want to tell you, can I tell you a little story about how I got back into writing as well?
Please.
So when I wrote my parents' book, I was single, I didn't have children. So I had this sort of capacity in my life. It was the perfect time to do that thing. So, but then life happened and I got married and then I had a baby and I had an extremely demanding career and I was the breadwinner. And um, so there was no time or space. But after about a year of having a young child, I had this sense that if I didn't get back to writing, I would die like a spiritual death, right? I had to do one thing for me.
Hmm.
And so I set an intention about this time of year where I would get up in the morning while my baby was just waking up and having her bottle, and I would spend an hour for myself every morning before work, and I would just see what came.
Hmm.
And I did. And after about 3 months of that, I just started blogging and doing some stuff for fun. And about 3 months into it, I could see that I had a discipline and I could do it. And that was when my first paying client came along and she said, I know you're busy. I know you just had a baby, but I wonder if you would help me with my story.
Wow.
And I feel that because I carved out the space, that the next thing showed up. There's something, I'm sure you know this, Brianna. You probably tell your clients, just start walking,
Yeah, I do.
right? So for you, just start walking
Hmm.
and then see what shows up. And amazing things will happen when you start doing the work in motion. Because my dad would always say, you can't steer a parked car,
Is that not the truth?
right? So
Oh,
just start writing.
okay.
And then when you feel like you're ready, maybe it's a month into it, maybe it's 3 months, things will start to take shape and you'll want
Hmm.
to start organizing your thoughts. Have you ever written anything for publication, like art?
I actually have a book called The Road to Glory.
Oh,
Um,
so you've written a book. This is not your first rodeo. Oh my gosh.
no, but that book was when I wrote that book. I wrote that. I've always written, so I've always been a writer. So I've always had like poems that I would write, and I always journaled. But this particular book came about one day. I was sitting in my living room. I was a stay-at-home mom with my children, and the weather was calling for us to have a really bad snowstorm, real bad. And the Lord told me to write this book, and I see in pictures. And so I started seeing this picture of this story, and I could see it. And so so the snowstorm came that night, and we were like snowed in for a week. And that particular, I just wrote everything that I saw, and I just wrote. And everything from there, I just was directed by the Lord. Call this person, they're going to help you with this. Call this person, they're going to help you with this. Call this person. And that's how that book ended up coming into fruition.
Oh, that is amazing. That and there's one more thing that I heard you say, and I've heard you say this several times. So I want to give you a spontaneous question prompt
Okay.
right now on the fly. And you don't have to like do a writing exercise right now, but the question prompt is, the Lord told me dot dot dot.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have used that phrase several times in our conversations, and that seems like a theme in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I bet you could write several sessions on that question prompt.
Yeah. I'm sure I could. Sure I could. Oh,
So,
wow.
so as you start, one of the things to think about with your writing discipline is sometimes you can just free write journaling. Just start if, and I do a discipline called morning pages, and we'll talk about that in a second. But question prompts are a really wonderful way to just free write. And magic happens with students when we give a question prompt in class with 20 minutes, with the door closed, no notifications, and they're there. You're a captive audience. If you
Mm-hmm.
can discipline yourself to create that environment for you, with don't check your phone. Under no circumstance are you allowed to check your phone in
Mm-hmm.
your 20-minute or 1 hour, however long you block for your free write. You will be astonished what shows up on the page.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you can either just start on your own or start with a series of question prompts. And so for your listeners as well, I have a toolkit which includes question prompts,
Mm-hmm.
questions everyone should ask themselves, some of my favorite oral history interview questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a great way. But I think free writing with question prompts is one of the most absolutely powerful exercises any of us can do. And
Mm-hmm.
for many people, these little vignettes, and let me define what a vignette is. A vignette is just a little self-contained story,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a story in which something happens, right? It's not just so sometimes when we journal, we're just downloading general memories, and that's wonderful, and just getting the richness and texture of life. and seeing what shows up. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have an arc. It doesn't have a beginning and a middle and an end. A vignette is just a little self-contained piece that has those elements. It has some conflict. It has a main character. Something happens and it has a resolution where you learn something in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And any book is going to be a series of vignettes kind of stitched together.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times in your free writing, you want to write a story, right? About a time in your life when God told me dot, 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 right? And so a lot of my questions that I ask people are tell me about a time when.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's one of the types of exercises that you can do in your journaling that will focus your energy more. But when you just start, you don't even worry about focusing your energy. Just see what shows up
Mm-hmm.
completely on your own. But again, question prompts are a great way of doing that.
Okay.
And I want to pause and just tell one more type of morning pages because it's a
Mm-hmm.
different type of writing that works for me. So morning pages were pioneered by a woman named Julia Cameron in
Mm-hmm.
her book, The Artist's Way. And this is a discipline that a lot of artists use where you wake up first thing in the morning before you check your phone. I'm terrible at that right now because I'm doing media and I'm checking my phone first thing. When I'm
Mm-hmm.
in a better headspace, I try to get up and go straight to my morning pages and you write three like pages nonstop. Just download everything that's in your mind and it's free write, just fast and furious. And the only rule is your pen doesn't stop moving and you stop at the end of three pages. And in pure morning pages fashion, you throw them away when you're done. These
Really?
are not journals for posterity. These are journals just for you to download your dreams, the ick. Like when I need to vent, I just get it all out there and I put my fears, my gratitudes, all that, just whatever is there swirling in my head, I
Mm-hmm.
get completely clear. And then I start my writing for the day, my real writing.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's just, and it helps my relationships because then I don't burden the people in my life with all that drivel.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. Using them as what I call a trash can.
Right. I don't do that. Sometimes I do, but it
Mm-hmm.
helps if I get all that out first. So that's one type of writing. You might do pure journaling, and that's okay too. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
exposing you to different types of writing.
Okay. I think that is something that I think I would get stuck with throwing it away.
It's really interesting. And so I would recommend try it a couple of times and see how you feel about it.
Okay.
Because I was reticent as well too, because I'm like, these are my journals. And sometimes I admit, sometimes I do journals instead
Mm-hmm.
of morning pages because there's something I want to say, and I know I only have so much time, and I actually want to capture it. So there are
Mm-hmm.
days when I do journals, but I
Mm-hmm.
differentiate between the two. And I
Okay.
think there's something healthy in that.
Yeah. So with the morning pages, are you suggesting for us to have like a notebook that we do our 3 pages and then we take it out and then toss it?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually get cheap spiral bound, like when it's back to school sales. I get the
Mm-hmm.
really cheap, like 50-cent notebooks, and I just trash those. Today, I actually have a tablet. It's a Kindle that I write on with a stylus. And so I just delete it when I'm done. So I have less paper to shred now. But either way,
Okay. 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 I'm gonna try it. And I'm sure some people that are listening, they're gonna try it too. Because I'm sure there's some thoughts. Because what it's making me think about sometimes we have these thoughts that we need to get out, but we don't want nobody else to ever find out. So tossing them away is the best option.
that's absolutely right. Same thing with your first draft writing. You need to make sure that those are private and that no one is going to find them and read them because there could be feelings hurt, just
Hmm.
like with a private diary that you don't want anyone else to read.
Yeah.
So that's another note. I differentiate between diary writing, which is just for me,
Hmm.
and journal writing, which I assume that posterity might read someday.
Hmm.
And I try to keep the two separate and not have, I don't want to burden my daughter with my diaries, which I might go back to write a memoir someday or use, but I don't want to burden my family with those. There are some journals that I'm leaving for them and some that are not. And it's important. So when I ask, what's your purpose with any given type of writing, there you see that there are different things that you can do in the morning. You could do morning pages, you could do diary writing, you could do journal writing, or you could do real writing. And real is totally the wrong word, but I mean writing with the intent of one day publishing it and working it into something.
And that's good. Okay. Morning
So, an
pages,
morning pages. Hmm.
journals and a diary should all be separated for the
Hmm.
depend because of the purposes of each. Okay.
Yes. Now, I want to talk about uh, one purpose that's really a terrible idea. We talked about one purpose already that's a terrible idea, and that's getting even, settling scores. And I knew you were not going for that, but that's for some of your listeners that might have trauma writing, and that's important to write about trauma sometimes, but not for getting even. A second purpose that is a really bad idea is trying to make any money on the book itself.
Mm,
Books are like the worst business model there is.
yes, they are. Hmm.
You know that. So, books can be part of a business model. They can help with maybe you want your clients to know you. Maybe
Hmm.
you want to have a voice in the world. There's something bigger that you want to say, and you want to play a bigger game in
Hmm.
saying it. And so books are a wonderful way to help people get to know you and to build your platform and to get that out there. But as far as actually making money on the books, there are far better ways of making money. I mean, 1 hour of therapeutic work, I mean, the economics are such you might make $1 a book.
Hmm. Yeah.
And how many books do you have to sell to equal 1 hour of time in your clinical practice?
A lot.
It's a lot. And you know how hard it is to get people to hit the buy button or the subscribe button or the like button. And
Hmm.
people say that when you have the book in your hand, your job is half done.
Hmm.
The rest is marketing.
Yeah.
Right?
That's you're gonna just spend so much time doing those things. It is a lot.
It is a lot. And so you have a business overall. And so having your book be a book is a wonderful business card, right? Because it helps people get to know you. And it can lead into maybe courses you want to teach or uh, groups that you want to offer or other types of products that can be monetized. So I'm not saying that money is a bad reason
Hmm.
to write. It's a good, I mean, we can do a lot of good things through our business. And I believe that that can be um, a calling and a vocation. And I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just am cautioning anybody that thinks they're going to make a lot of money off their books.
Hmm.
You'll spend a lot more in marketing. So we'll just get that out of the way right now. That's my
Okay.
what I call the dream killing conversation. And and getting traditionally published is hard, and it's an up and it's a learning curve, and it's a business in and of itself.
Hmm.
So just be advised, there's a whole journey ahead. But the important thing is just start walking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about organization?
Yes, please. I am the worst with being organized and organizing these stories, because I can have many stories, but the organization of them, it almost gives me anxiety. So yes.
Ah, totally. I absolutely get that. And that's part of the reason why your first job is just start writing and not even worry about the organization of it. When you wrote your first book, you didn't know where it was going, did you?
No, no, I didn't. I just wrote, like I just threw up on a page, on the pages.
And there is real power in that, Brianna. And in writing circles, there are two types of writers. This is a sort of, people call them plotters, Plotters, and
Hmm.
pantsters. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Okay. Plotters are people that like to have the story outlined. They know where it's going. They know where the characters are headed, and they kind of have it worked out in their minds before they even start. And J.K. Rowling is one of the most famous plotters. She had a pretty good idea of the character arc of all of her characters from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that is amazing. And then there are pantsters, and we call pantsters because we write by the seat of our pants. We don't know where it's going. And we let the story surprise us, and we let inspiration guide us, and we don't know what we have until we see it on the page. And there is no one right way. It just depends on your way.
That is freeing for me. Because of some of the people that are in my circle, they're very organized and they are plotters. And so they're like, hey, you need to do this and do it like that. And I'm like, that is so not me. Like I cannot do that. That I can't. It would cause me to stop and not be able to even start because I don't know.
Yes. And so your way of doing that is 100% right for you.
Hmm. Okay.
So don't feel that's why, again, that assignment to just start writing and have no idea where it's going, because there's real power in letting it just show up and surprise you and letting your connection with spirit and God be your guide.
Mm-hmm.
And you will find in your writing that stuff shows up that you didn't see coming and that didn't come from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
It's going to be really exciting to see where this goes and who you become through the writing process.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to write about who you've been and how you got here.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so important. And what you don't know is who you're going to be at the end of the writing process, because you will not be the same person when your book is finished as you are today.
Oh, wow. Explain.
So, one of my core philosophies is that when you tell your story, it changes the ending. It
Mm-hmm.
changes your ending. There is freaky magic involved in opening up yourself to inspiration, to spirit, to God, and to examining your life in the past and seeing the threads. You will become something new as you examine all of those stories, and you will start to see patterns that you didn't know before. You will see things that you want to change. You will see relationships that you want to be different or better or heal through the
Mm-hmm.
writing process. They're just I promise you that there will be things that show up that are going to blow your mind.
Wow. Wow.
So, how exciting is the journey that you're
It's
starting?
it's very exciting because I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, you're starting something really important. And I'm like getting emotional. Um, and my eyes, like my eyes are welling up because I feel that for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Mm.
and it's not only going to change you, but it will change future generations of your family.
Mm.
Because when you become a different person and when you allow yourself to be seen, that will that is a love letter to the future,
Hmm.
Brianna. And that love letter, your children may or may not read it when you write it. There may be a day when they read it when they're ready for it. It may be read by your grandchildren, and it may show up in their life on a day when they need to hear from you.
Mm.
You might not even be around anymore, and
Hmm.
that book might fall off the shelf and open to a page that they need in their darkest hour.
Wow.
Yeah. So your purpose may be far greater, and it may be a love letter to the people that are in your audience that they will need in their darkest, in their moment. You just never know the one person that you're writing for.
Mm. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So, so don't write for an audience, write for one person. And then it will be authentic and it will be real and there will be energy on the page that comes across.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
So, once you've been writing for a while. Okay, so let's talk about organization. We started there a little bit.
Hmm.
So after you actually start writing, for what you think is going to come together, some themes will start to emerge, and you can start outlining. But I don't outline until I generally got a first draft. So if I'm working with a client, I will have done oral history interviews. I may have been interviewing them for a period of months, maybe even a year before I actually start writing. And then I can sort of see that some themes have emerged and I can start outlining and start having it take shape. And I used to write in Microsoft Word, but now I really do like a program called Scrivener. Have you heard of
Hmm.
Scrivener?
Hmm. I have. I have. I'm sorry.
And I resisted it for a long time, but I do enjoy using it for when I get serious about then taking all of what I've got and putting it in place.
Hmm.
Scrivener is a wonderful tool, and it's great because it's software for writers, and it basically allows you to have little chunks of writing that you can organize in a visual way. And you
Okay.
can move them around and nest them. And so you can see your full outline and you can move and you can have split screens open. So you can take all of your little vignettes that you've written or all your little nuggets and stories and gems and start piecing them together and playing with what the organization looks like. And
Okay.
so I will take like 6 months or a year's worth of oral history and start putting those oral history into pieces. So that's a thought when you get a little bit farther along. But I wouldn't recommend that you start worrying about that just yet. Just
Okay.
get it all out there. What I do, however, is I create, when I'm just getting going, is I create one massive document where everything goes. And
Okay.
I will call it like all transcripts or all journals. And just every time you write something that you want to keep, just plunk it in there and give it a header. So use the Microsoft Words formatting feature, give it like an H1 header, and then
Hmm.
use Microsoft Words feature to make a table of contents. Do you know how
Okay.
to make an automated table of contents?
Ma'am.
Okay. I am going to send you, I'm going to email you a PDF on how to make a table of contents. This is going to change your life.
Okay.
I
Okay.
cannot believe how long it took me. It's the most simple trick, but basically you just use the formatting feature to make an H1 header, and then
Hmm.
you go into Microsoft Word or Google Doc, whatever you're
Hmm.
using, insert table of contents, and it automatically hyperlinks all of your headers. So it
Oh,
tells you like
wow.
your date. So I just save each one by a date and I will give it a little title that says what it's about. But it allows you to quickly jump to all of your journal entries and have them just neatly there at the top of your document. It's like magic.
Oh,
Once
wow.
you know how to do this, you will use it all the time.
Yes. I know I will. Because I'm like, how do you do that? Oh my God,
Right?
save so much time.
It
Oh my
saves so much time. So I will send that to you and then you can share that with your readers if you want,
God.
or
Okay.
listeners, viewers here,
Yeah.
because
I
it's just
want
one little tip. Go ahead.
so I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
The so I'm also doing I think I shared it with you. I'm also doing another podcast where I'm actually telling bits of my story.
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts about that?
I love, 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 love it. Okay. So, in that podcast, as you tell bits of your story, you're going to be doing the work of writing your book. You're going
Mm,
to be thinking about a story that you want to tell, a vignette, right?
hmm.
So you can spend a little time in advance crafting it. So it has some of the satisfying elements of a story. It needs a main character, it needs a little conflict, it needs a lesson that you've learned, it needs some resolution. And so you can put that sort of texture in this little self-contained bit and then tell it using your voice, your
Hmm.
audio voice, which is powerful.
Hmm.
And then there's energy in the voice and it's intimate and personal. I love voice. And that's why I do so much oral history. Then when
Yeah.
you're done, run a transcript of it.
Yes.
And
How
then you
smart.
have it.
Yeah.
That's your first draft of your vignette. And then take what you said in your podcast, and then you can edit that further. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have a series of these vignettes written, and you're just going to stitch them together in the end into a full book. That's
Wow.
how you're going to do it, Brianna. You're going
Wow.
to get it done just like that.
Yeah.
First draft with a journal, like in the morning, kind of what
Mm-hmm.
you want to say, and then you'll polish it up a little bit for your podcast. Then you're going to deliver it. Then you're going to think about it, and you're going to edit it, and then you're going to stitch it. And that, my friend, is how you're going to write your book. The end. There'll be some dark nights of the soul along the way. But now, what other questions do you have? What do you want to say about that?
So, what about those who desire to do a memoir, but they don't want to use particularly their names? They want to use fictional characters. What are your advice about them?
I'm thinking. Again, what is your purpose?
Hmm.
Why don't you want to put your name in it? Is it because it would hurt others? If so, then think about that real hard. Is it because you're worried about getting sued?
Hmm.
If so, think about that real hard, because people may be able to figure out who you are and sue you anyway. Like, if you're going to write something that someone is going to sue you for, do it in a journaling way behind that you don't plan on publishing first,
Hmm.
and then decide if it has already served your purpose. But
Wow.
if you want to write a memoir, consider being brave
Hmm.
and writing something that you will put your name on, that carries the energy of you and your voice. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't do anything here. I'm not telling anybody
Hmm.
what's right for you, because one of my core values with anything hard or anything sensitive is what I call grappling. And that is being with the hard question for a while, turning it over, running it past your therapist,
Hmm.
running it past your most trusted advisors, not the people in your life that will tell you, you just write that thing and don't care what anybody else thinks. That's bad advice. There are consequences.
Yeah.
So grapple with it and take it to God, take it in prayer, take it in meditation, and there will come a moment when you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I can't give anybody the answer, because what's right for one person would be terrible advice for another person's particular circumstances. It is, no one can take the responsibility of that answer away from you or from
Yeah.
your listeners.
Yeah, I love though that some of the reasonings of why or why not, because I have seen stories in the headlines where someone has done that, say they wrote in a fictional character or what they say is made up or loosely based off of, and they have actually been sued because people were able to identify who they were within this person's story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Hiding behind anonymity. No.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's time to be brave. We're going into a new year. It's time for us to really be brave and courageous if we're going to do it. Of course, with sensitivity and always with love and compassion for those who are a part of our story, as well as ourselves. If we're going to do it, we should do it and be brave about doing it.
Here, here. Beautifully said.
Yeah. I do want to know. So once one begins to do this, how do you end? How do you like where do you end? Where does the pen actually stop?
Mm. I have a trick. Okay. And I storyboard everything, to see kind of what the emotional moments typically are. For humans, we love patterns. And there's a trick in the storyboard. And you see this a lot in Hollywood movies. And it deals with where to begin and where to end your story, because both of those are really hard.
Hmm.
So I like to begin a story just before something big happens that sends you on a journey. So
Mm.
you want to show your character, you, the hero. You might feel weird about calling yourself a hero, but we'll use the hero's journey. But you're going along life and everything seems fine. So you want to introduce yourself at home, at work, at play, just kind of show life for a minute. And the reader can see that there are some real problems. You and your life, you think everything is fine. Oh, I don't need to change. I'm fine. Thank you very much. But
Mhm.
something is coming that is going to send you on a journey.
Mm.
And you're probably going to resist this journey, but it is about to hit you and you are not going to like it. So open your story just before that moment happens. And the rest of your story is about that journey. Okay.
Wow.
The end of your story is the just after. It's a resting place. You've had this journey, you've had a dark night of the soul, you've had a sort of spark of the divine moment where an answer came and you saw clearly. You had a rally at the end where you finished and you had to dig deep and show your courage. And then you had a finish where you conquered this thing or you ended in the place you wanted to be on this journey. And the end is just a nice resting place. It's kind of a mirror opposite of the beginning. You're like in the same place, but everything has changed because you have changed. So it's
Mm.
like, think about a mirror opposite moment
Mhm.
and look for that. It's a really powerful technique that is incredibly satisfying for readers to
Mhm.
see the beginning and the middle. I mean, the beginning and the end as just these both kind of before and after. And they have these echoes of each other, but you've seen all the change between.
So, so let me ask you this then. So for me in particular, because this is going to be life changing for me, by the time I get to the end, I should, there's going to be a reflection for me.
Yes. Your closing scene may not have happened yet,
Yeah.
Brianna. I've seen that in books I've worked on with people. The
Hmm.
closing scene unfolded as we wrote it. And I went, that is your moment. And we ended it right there. So
Wow.
you'll know. There will come a point when you know, but you don't have to know right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited. Like I want to start like let me go ahead and start, because um I'm excited for one to be able to tell my story and then to revisit some places in my childhood and own up, but I'm also excited to see where I'm going to end.
Yes, I am excited for you. And there's some energy right now in how you're feeling.
Hmm.
Capture that as much as you can. When that inspiration shows up, it is a precious thing. John
Hmm.
Lennon had a belief that he should write a song all the way through from beginning to end in one sitting.
Hmm.
When inspiration shows up, try to capture it and ride that wave as far as it will take you. Keep the outside world at bay. There will times when you'll write when you won't feel inspired at all and it will just feel like a slog and you're just showing up, you're doing your put your gym shoes on routine. You
Hmm.
have to have that discipline to show up even when you don't feel like it, but when it does, guard it as a sacred thing.
Hmm. I think I am. Because what I really love that you said was about the audio recording, because there are some days where I might not want to write, but I want to just speak it because I process better when I'm talking. I have to talk in order to process. That's me. Like if I don't get it out, if I don't say it, I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna explode. And
Oh,
so to be able to record while I'm in that flow, I think would be better for me, and then put it into the transcriber and then have that and then be able to go back.
I'm so glad you brought that up because many people who are writing are much more auditory. It's one reason why oral history is powerful. I interview people because many of the people I work with are not writers, but they
Hmm.
can tell their story. And so I'm the listener. You probably don't need someone to be there listening. All you need is this. I do the same thing, Brianna,
Hmm.
because I'm a words person. So many dang words, whether I'm journaling or just I got to get them out all the time. I recognize a lot of it's just garbage, right? But I have to get it out.
Yes.
So this is my headset.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a little fuzzy microphone cover on it. Looks like a lucky rabbit's foot. This is what protects it from the wind. So if I'm going for a walk and I want to journal to myself, so I
Mm-hmm.
just have a recording app on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm walking, I might record a journal. When I'm driving on a long drive, I have this on and I'm recording my journals then because I sometimes I need to be moving and not just sitting there writing. You sitting with people in therapy sessions, you need to get your body moving sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the most powerful ways. And then you have all of those audio recordings. Just run the transcript and put every transcript into that giant Word document I was telling you. Just
Mm-hmm.
dump everything there. And then
That's
you will have the source material and the words to work with when it starts taking shape.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
So
okay.
this is going to be great. Do you have any final questions? We probably took all the time,
Yeah,
maybe more than you wanted to spend. I don't know, but
no, this is fine. This is fine. I'm excited. One last question. So I know one thing that can be kind of stressful, send people give people anxiety is the word count. Can we talk about the word count real fast? Because
yeah,
sometimes people are like, I get the question a lot, like how many words should a book be? Or and I know for myself, I've given myself a rule where like I have a fr really close friend. She that's what she does. She writes, and she had 4 novels, and I'm like, I can't do a whole novel. I don't know if I can do a whole novel. So, um, word count for people.
memoir is incredibly flexible and life storytelling is incredibly flexible. So for many people, one oral history interview is enough.
Mm,
If you capture your voice and your story in one session, it's more than the vast majority of humanity has ever been able to leave, right? So don't think it has to be a book. For some people, they want to just write a few little short stories that say who they are. Three short stories might really tell your posterity who you are, right? So it can be just a few little vignettes. It could be more like a novella, or novella, however you want to pronounce it, but
I think this is.
a 15, 20,000 word little piece. There are
Mhm.
some beautiful little memoirs, things like Everything I Knew I Learned in Kindergarten kind of thing.
Yes.
Like some of those short books are fabulous. There was a great one. It's the guy that wrote the book about Make Your Bed. The general, he was a like military, um,
Mhm.
I forget which branch of the military, but anyway, maybe he's an admiral. His little book was based on a commencement speech, and it was
Mm,
fabulous. So a typical book for a memoir could be, my books tend to be in the 50 to 65,000 word range, enough that
okay.
you can sit down and just read it in a day or two. That feels easy and satisfying. Like
Hmm.
literary novels might be 80 to 100,000 words. Most memoirs are not going to be that. But the
Yeah.
point is, write it in its natural length for you. I'm
Mhm.
working on a client right now who's working on a near-death experience, and it will probably be more like a novella.
Oh wow. Wow. I think that's good. Oh, I think that's good. So those of you who are like myself, because I know my purpose is what my purpose is. And so mine my memoir is probably gonna be a little not lengthy, but it's gonna give us um some more in-depth stuff about me. So, but for anybody who really, because what I love what that you said, Rhonda, from the beginning is that when people are nearing death, or especially when you're working in the hospice and they're transitioning out, they are wanting to tell part of their life story. And this is what they're going to leave behind. And so, any of you who are listening now and you want to have something that you're going to leave behind for your family, this is it. This should really ignite you to do it and to do it and do it well. Because nobody can tell our stories like we can tell our stories, right?
Right.
and to have something written that could be a part of your legacy. And so from generations that come after you, you know, I think it's beautiful to have that third generation that comes after you pick up your book. They've never met you, but they get into this book and they know, and they are ignited and they are inspired and they are motivated to become such a better person because perhaps they pick it up in a time where things are not going so well for them. But they read your story and they can see that my great grandmother was very heroic in her life. I never would have thought. And if she could do it, so can I.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. So, I do want to tell everybody, please go to Rhonda's website. The link is going to be up. Those of you who have heard her before on here, the link, same link, because I got mine.
Oh, yay.
So I have if I could turn around. So I have all, and I have more. My other stuff is on the other side of my office. But, oh, and your book, the child, the give me the
Oh, and
correct title.
yeah,
I'm
a
looking at it.
child in Berlin.
Child in Berlin. So I started reading it. Rhonda, for one, let me say this. You are an excellent writer. You write, I love the way you write because you can get into it, into the story, and it's like hours later. So you use your words so beautiful so that you paint a picture. That's what I'm trying to say. You paint a picture with your words. So I love, so please, if you haven't gotten it, please go get that A Child in Berlin.
Mhm.
And then the other book, Creative Insecurity. Now that book is good as well. So I want everybody, let's go. The links are going to be in the description. So please go. And her website, I mean, wonderful free resources, which is always good for those of you who are perhaps you're on a budget. Even this by itself
Yeah.
will help anybody that is on the journey of writing um your story. Rhonda, thank you.
Those, thank you. So those question prompts are free. My life's work, my passion is helping as many people as possible, even for free, to get your stories done.
Yeah, we love you. I wish we could have you all the time. I wish I could just bundle you up and bring you home with me and but I
Me
can't.
too, Brianna. I would love that. Wouldn't that be great?
It would be, because it's not just what you do, but it's the spirit that's behind what you do. We love it. We love people who are genuine, who are transparent, and who at the core of who they are, there is love. So we
Yeah,
thank
that
you. So
love is everything.
it is everything. Without it, it's nothing. It's the Bible says that it's as sounding brass. So
Mhm. Yeah.
we thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And to our listeners, please don't forget, look in the description and go on every link. We want to continue to support Rhonda as she helps those who are in this position that many of you are in. You're ready to tell your story. I'm ready to tell my story. I'm excited. And I'm excited for many of you who are getting ready to embark on this journey as well. And so until next time, we will see you back here. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Haven for Soul Care. We hope today's conversation has provided you with the encouragement and tools to take care of yourself and embrace the journey ahead. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and sharing it with others who may benefit. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Take a moment today to nurture your soul. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.